Today in episode 58 of the podcast, we will be reviewing the film Love Hurts and the next 3 episodes of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man Season 1. We'll also be giving you the rundown of the biggest news of the week, including talking about the first trailer for the Fantastic Four First Steps. I'm Brad, he's Josh, and this is We'll Bring the Popcorn.
As always, before we jump into the news this week, please give us a like and subscription on YouTube. Hit that notification bell so you're getting our episodes when they drop every single Monday. Also, if you're listening to us in the audio room, please give us a 5-star review. It really helps elevate the profile of the show. And go to willbringthepopcorn.com where you can get all of our archive footage, as well as our merch store where you continue to help support the podcast there. We can't thank you enough for your continued support.
And so I want to kick off the news this week with a small update. We talked about this on a few episodes back, but we finally got the release date for the Toxic Avenger reboot. So if you don't know too much about it, this was, I think, completed in like 2021, 2023. Yeah. So it's been quite a few years, but it's been shelved because they weren't sure if they were really going to be able to release it. But they finally got a company on board, and we're finally getting it with an unrated edition in theaters across the country on August 29th.
That's going to be fun. I can't wait to check that one out. It's one that has gotten kind of this like underground swell of support that I think people are really excited to check it out. I don't know how well it's going to do with an unrated version in theaters because that's going to be kind of hard to get the maximum amount of audience you possibly could for a film like this. But there's a lot of grumblings that like people are really excited to check this movie out. And I'm excited that it's finally getting a release date.
I'll probably have plenty of people bringing their 5-year-olds in to watch the unrated Toxic Avenger.
Yeah. I mean, it's how many times do we find ourselves going to like horror movies and stuff that's very clearly meant to be like an adult audience, and you see like young kids, and like it's crazy. I mean, you know, people can parent how they want, but it's just crazy to see some of these films that get, you know, the real young kids, and you're just like, why are they here? But you know, far be it from me to tell you how to raise your kids, but it's crazy.
Daddy, where'd his head go? I don't know.
like, don't worry about it, kid.
Don't worry about it. He's okay. It's just a scratch.
Right.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like we've seen a few screenshots. I don't even think they ever ended up releasing a trailer for it before. So we assume we're going to see a trailer coming out maybe later this summer and stuff for it. But you got Peter Dinklage playing the main role. You got Elijah Wood. You got Kevin Bacon. You've got a decent cast within there, and I've heard some good things about those who have been able to see it, saying that even though it's really over the top with its gore and its violence and stuff, that it was a solid, because you know this is a B movie, this is a remake of a cult classic B movie. It's not meant to be an Oscar award winning production or something. So, but I'm really interested to see what they end up doing with this now that we finally have the release date.
Yeah, it's definitely one that I'm looking forward to checking out when it finally comes. I don't know if we'll get around to like reviewing it for the show or anything, but it's definitely one that if it's showing anywhere near here, I'm going to go out of my way to check it out because it does sound like a lot of fun. Is over the top. Sometimes it's fun to just turn your brain off and go see movies like that where you could just go enjoy it, have a good time, no matter how ridiculous and over the top it's going to be. But I'm definitely looking forward to checking out.
You'll be interested to see like the Terrifier crowd and those that have really helped support that movie go support something like this, because that's, you know, Terrifier being one of the most profitable movies of last year just because of its low budget and just how much it made in theaters. So we'll see if we end up getting kind of a cult following behind this as well, and it ends up performing really well.
Yeah, it's going to be one to check out for sure. I want to move into our next story, though. We finally got some updates on the potential X-Men movie that's going to be kind of the next phase for Marvel. So, you know, we're wrapping up this multiversal saga coming up with, you know, all the movies that are coming out this year. Then you've also got Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars to kind of wrap up this next phase of Marvel that's finally coming to its end. And people are like, what's coming up after that? Well, we know with the introduction of mutants, they're going to be heavily focused on like the Fantastic Four and the mutants. We got a little bit of update on X-Men now. So X-Men is probably going to be the next big film to come out from Marvel after that. And it looks like it's going to start filming in next year with the release of 2027. So probably going to be the follow-up to Secret Wars. I would say Secret Wars would probably come first, and then X-Men later in the year to kind of really kick off this next phase for Marvel.
Yeah, I believe X-Men is considered to be the first of that next phase and to kick off the mutant saga, and that will potentially get some more introduction than mutants as we're coming into Doomsday and Secret Wars. There's been a rumor that the Void is still going to play a part. It played a part in Deadpool and Wolverine. That is still going to play a part in like Doomsday and Secret Wars a bit, and like we'll just see exactly where it goes and how they introduce the mutants into it. But I'm really looking forward to, like, we're a year away from filming beginning on the MCU X-Men. We've been waiting for so long. I mean, we got Deadpool and Wolverine. We've had the Wolverine spinoffs, but it's been quite a while since our last main X-Men film came out. Of course, a lot of people want to forget about Dark Phoenix and Apocalypse because they just weren't done very well. But it's exciting to finally see the X-Men coming to the MCU and being tied into the entire Marvel universe. It does seem like they want, from all the casting rumors, that they want to stay younger because, you know, in the end, X-Men are supposed to be teenagers, and we really haven't gotten that so far. And the casting with, you know, James Marsden, Hugh Jackman, and Fonka, and Halle Berry, and everybody we had in the originals, you know, they were still in their 20s, 30s when those were filmed. But, you know, we have Sadie Sink, who's most famous from Stranger Things. She's rumored to be Jean Grey. Yep. We also have, they're talking about like Kitty Pryde, Gambit, Cyclops. All of those are going to be part of the main core. We don't know if maybe we're going to see Beast or Rogue or anybody else. I'm still holding out hope to get a proper Rogue in live action where she's actually flying and fighting and, you know, being Rogue instead of the damsel in distress. But I'm really looking forward to it. And there's also a big rumor about who might be directing it as well.
Yeah, there's talk that it's going to be the Russo brothers, who are, you know, synonymous for the big Avengers films, also the Captain America films that are like the better Captain America films, like, you know, Winter Soldier and Civil War, and, you know, just really being involved in that. And it seems like this is part of their, you know, big return to Marvel, is to helm, you know, not only the next two Avengers films, but the X-Men film now as well, potentially. So they're definitely throwing some heavyweights behind it, which goes to show how serious they are about making it work. I love the fact that they're leaning back into the younger iterations of the X-Men, because it gives them time to grow as well. So you can think long term with these characters. I know there's a ton of fan theories casting, you know, people fantasy casting these roles. I know there was a little bit of groundswell for potentially Millie Bobby Brown as Rogue. I don't know if I necessarily see that as much, but that'd be a heck of a Stranger Things tie-in if you're already talking about, you know, Sadie Sink playing the role of Jean Grey. But there's a whole bunch of people that are trying to throw around names, and I'm excited to see where they go casting-wise for this, because this is another one that's going to be very important to get right, and kind of, you know, if they're going to bet big on the mutants and the X-Men like this, you have to nail the casting. And for the most part, Marvel does have that history of, you know, when it's time to cast these iconic characters, they've knocked it out of the park far more times than they've missed it. So I'm excited to see where they go with it. Hopefully later this year, when we get some more info on casting and stuff, I'd love to see a big reveal at, you know, something at like San Diego Comic-Con or something, if they have a big presence there again, where they announce, you know, your X-Men cast, or potentially, like, that would be huge, even if it's significantly before they start filming, but something to give us, you know, some excitement for that moving forward.
See if we get Robert Downey Jr. as Jean Grey.
Might as well. He's making $1 billion to play everything else.
The X-Men, it's just every single one of them is played by Robert Downey Jr.
I mean, heck, why not? It would probably might not save you that much considering how much he's making, but why not?
We've got quite a few actors that just throwing their name in wanting to be Storm. Like, we don't have any official confirmation what the lineup's going to be, but we've had quite a few wanting to play Storm in live action. And again, we're such big fans of Alison Seeley Smith's voice to Storm in the animated series. And, you know, Halle Berry was a good actress. They didn't give her, you know, that's probably the biggest problem with the Fox X-Men movies, is that very few of them, you know, we got Cyclops, even though he was the leader, he was kind of tossed to the side and wasn't really getting to be big and important, and Storm was more just kind of background. Like, it was mainly about Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, and everybody else was just kind of like, we're not going to do a whole lot with them. Like, I still love, like, the original X-Men in X2 and then X3, and the rest kind of went off. But it's really going to be interesting how they approach it here. Like, are we going to get the black leather, or as we've gotten with, you know, we got Hugh Jackman in the Wolverine suit and everyone went nuts with it, and we've got Deadpool in his suit and stuff. I'm really looking forward if we get comic accurate suits in live action for Cyclops, for Storm, for Gambit, for everybody. Because, I mean, we got Channing Tatum's look as Gambit, which was, pretty spot on and everything. We don't know if, there's rumors that Marvel is in love with what Channing Tatum did as Gambit, but if they're going much younger, I can't see them going much younger and then throwing Channing Tatum in as Gambit in that as well. So, I would see him maybe showing up in Secret Wars or something else. But it's going to be really interesting to see who gets his cast, because it's going to be big. They're going to be in there for a while because the next phase is the mutant saga. So we're going to have a lot of stuff that's involving the X-Men and mutants and stuff going forward. So they're probably going to go for a little more unknowns. I mean, Sadie Sink is known, but she hasn't blown up as big as like Millie Bobby Brown and the Finn Wolfhard and stuff from Stranger Things. So this might be her breakout if she ends up being Jean Grey to play that for many years to come.
That's a big get for them. And, Marvel seems to be taking some pretty big swings with their casting lately. I mean, if you look at the Fantastic Four, there's probably not a bigger name attached to as many big projects as Pedro Pascal is to land him for
everything.
For, Reed Richards. There's also been some underground rumblings that potentially they could be looking to cast Ghost Rider finally, and the name that's being thrown around now, it's not Norman Reedus like a lot of people seem to really, really want, or it's not Nicolas Cage in a return to, playing the role of Ghost Rider, but it's a huge, huge Hollywood name, and it would be, in my opinion, a humongous get if they can get him, and that's Ryan Gosling, which is not the worst thing I've heard of, but Ryan Gosling being attached to an MCU project would be huge. And if you get him in something as cool as Ghost Rider, they could have a lot of fun and do some really good things with that.
Hey, Disney's already looking to lock him up for a Star Wars project. So while you have him there, like, hey, why don't you come play Ghost Rider as well? Like, having him join Star Wars and the MCU would be kind of big for him, but big for a lot of stuff. And it'd be really interesting to see. Like, he's a fantastic actor. It would be kind of a different look and take than we've had with Ghost Rider, but he's had so many different iterations and looks and changes throughout the years. And, it's been played by multiple different people. They could just make it a brand new character with Ghost Rider because, we had the two Nicolas Cage films. We had him show up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which was a different version, and that was a fun version and stuff. But it would be really interesting to see Ryan Gosling join the MCU in the Ghost Rider, or there's even rumors of like Javier Bardem might be Mr. Sinister. There's also been talks that people want Keanu Reeves to join the MCU and be Mr. Sinister. Which looks-wise would fit.
I've heard there's even rumblings of them possibly trying to cast Denzel as Magneto, which is another one I've heard, which is crazy to think about. I'm sure the internet's going to love that. Cast Denzel Washington as Magneto. I'm sure the internet's going to have a few things to say about that. But yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, these are the types of swings that Marvel's taking right now. They're like, okay, we got a little bit of equity back in our pocket. Let's get us some big names to throw into it, get us some of that extra box office oomph to keep us at the top, and that's one way to definitely go about doing it.
Yeah, especially if you're doing younger for some of your main casts. If you've got, even if you get Professor X being a bigger name, you still, even though he's showing up in Captain America: Brave New World, Giancarlo Esposito has thrown his name around a ton of wanting to be Professor X, which again, that'll go over well with the internet and stuff if you have Magneto as Denzel and Giancarlo as Professor X. But since he's showing up as a different character in Captain America: Brave New World, he's probably out as Professor X. But it's going to be really interesting to see what they do, because you probably want some bigger names to be the older cast around him while you have a much younger cast to play the X-Men.
Have them play like the mentors for the next wave of them. Like, it makes sense, and I'm really excited to see where they go with it. I'd love to see Ryan Gosling in the fold as Ghost Rider as well. That could mean we're finally getting the ball moving on that Midnight Suns movie that we keep hearing so much about, like going into that darker realm. Could you imagine a pairing up of Ryan Gosling and Kit Harington finally coming back as Black Knight? You get Doctor Strange thrown in the mix.
Oscar Isaac
back as Moon Knight. That'd be one hell of a conglomeration of actors into a big Marvel project. That would do huge numbers.
To finally get Blade showing up in there.
I've just given up on trying to throw Blade into something. Unless you want to throw him into that, you throw Mahershala Ali, another incredible actor, in there as well. Like, just for the love of God, I've said it till I'm blue in the face. Give me Blade. Get it together and get it done. Like, come on, man. What are we doing here?
Yeah, it's been crazy how long and how many issues and problems Blade has had. Like, you just get the right people on that and get that rolling and get that going. Because it does feel now at this point, it may be until after Secret Wars before we see Blade, just because where would it fit in in this world. So could it be X-Men, Midnight Suns, and Blade kind of kicking off that next phase after Secret Wars?
Go darker. I'm all for it.
And maybe we'll get to see them show up in Secret Wars, and then we'll get their solo and team up movie after Secret Wars.
Maybe they could find Shang-Chi while they're at it to see where.
Yeah, Shang-Chi too potentially is filming next year as well. From what we've heard, so that I rewatched it the other day because it was on TBS or TNT or something. It was re-airing, and I sat down, which I still loved it. It was so much fun. Seemingly, it was great as Shang-Chi. Like, the action was fun and great. It had some good humor. It had its missteps and things that was a little sillier and over the top with it, but it was fun. And I've been looking forward to a sequel to that since it came out. And yeah, hopefully, so we might be getting Shang-Chi and X-Men filming next year.
Which a wonderful direction for the MCU to go in. When you can give some of these characters that we've been watching for over a decade a little bit of a break, and let's get some new blood in there, I'm all for it.
Well, I want to stay in the Marvel realm because we got the first trailer for Fantastic Four First Steps. Of course, the Super Bowl coming up, that's normally a big, big time. Of course, when this episode drops, the Super Bowl will be over, and we already know who's going to win that. We don't even have to watch it. We just get the trailers and commercials afterwards because that's the most important part of it. But we got Fantastic Four First Steps. We finally get to see them in action, and people are already dissecting it and going through it and trying to find out. And it looks like a few secrets may have already been revealed, and we've kind of seen it too. But we wanted to kind of walk through and go through that trailer as well. And so if you're not familiar where the Fantastic Four First Steps is taking place, it is going to be in an alternate universe set in a 1960s, futuristic 1960s kind of setting. We got to see Reed working on chalkboards, and it looks like he's making a multiversal bridge, so we've kind of already got that connection. We know they're going to come in to the regular timeline and everything else, so we've already got the setup in the trailer that he's working on that bridge. But we did get to see Sue using her powers. We get to see Johnny flame on and running through, but that's one scene a lot of people have going through because we've had it happen a lot in trailers where they edit out characters because they don't want to show them yet. And the movie's not out until July. There's probably still plenty of special effects and things that need to be finished. Well, Johnny is flying flame on throughout the city. It appears he's like chasing somebody, and I would assume that's a Silver Surfer. They just weren't ready to show her yet.
Yeah, and that's a pretty safe assumption to make, given who we know is going to be in this movie. But you get the whole, they're already set up as a family. They've got it looks like the way they're going to describe it, they're already established as the Fantastic Four, but you get kind of glimpses potentially into how they got their powers or things, because you see, Ben before he becomes the Thing, where he's this astronaut with Reed Richards. It's already given the internet plenty of fuel to make like all the bear comparisons.
That's why I already started laughing.
With the Thing in the kitchen with Herbie the robot, and just so many fun bear moments that you could see that, just critiquing his cooking and all that stuff, which is, as fans of the bear, we love to see that stuff, but that stuff's been a ton of fun. But you see them, working for a company called the Future Foundation, and they're already in the Baxter building. So you get these things that a lot of Marvel fans are hoping to see from Fantastic Four, and a lot of that stuff appears to be integrated into the film. Obviously, you're talking about the multiversal bridge that you see in the background that, is going to probably likely explain how they tie into it. But one of the big things that's, got a lot of people talking about the trailer was the appearance of the shadowy figure that is very clearly a Galactus shadowy figure overlooking New York City. Galactus is going to be the big bad in this, with, of course, the Silver Surfer in tow to kind of help do Galactus's bidding here. So it's going to be fun to see that whole dynamic play out in where they're going with everything to kind of, at the end of the day, get the Fantastic Four into the rest of the MCU.
And the Thing looked really good. Like, I liked his look. It is a little bit, it's going to take a second to hear Eben's voice as the Thing of just being there, because most of the time, whenever we've had the difference between Ben Grimm and the Thing, they go a little gravelier and doggier. Sure. Especially, I did rewatch the first Fantastic Four movie with Michael Chiklis and Jessica Alba and all of them, and then, of course, he changed and went to a lot gravelier. He's keeping his kind of regular voice for the Thing, and the mouth movements looked a little off. Again, there's still a few months to go, but you look at stills of the Thing and look at it up close, it looked really good. And so I'm looking forward to that. The suits look good. We got to see them all in their suits, so each of them has a slight variation to them so that they They, of course, coordinate, but they look different enough. And, you know, we don't have a naked thing like we did in the last Fantastic Four reboot. And he's wearing a full suit and he's got the brow. Like, that's the biggest thing out of all of them. Like, they got that huge, pronounced brow looking really good. And I couldn't help. I know he showed up this, and Michael Chiklis' thing did it as well. But when you see Thing in the hat and the trench coat, I just immediately went back to the 90s Ninja Turtles with Raph going around the city. I'm like, that's just Raph. Why is he trying to be Raph right now?
I love that though, but you get a lot of these nodes, these odes to the comics. Their costumes look, dedicated to their comic book classic look. That's not identical, so the internet's going to have a field day about that. But we also get the inclusion of John Malkovich in the trailer. John Malkovich, who a lot of people are already speculating is going to be Red Ghost as a potential character, but also another little nugget that a lot of people are catching on. It's going to be really interesting to see how they incorporate this into the movie. And it appears that Sue may be pregnant with Franklin, and that could lead to the story of Galactus trying to come and take Franklin. So it's from a very classic Fantastic Four comic book storyline that it appears to be what they're integrating into this film, and it has a lot of people excited for that because it's one of the most popular Fantastic Four stories that they appear to be adapting right out of the gate.
And Franklin is one of the most powerful characters in the MCU when you think about it, because he can do kind of like Galactus, create and destroy galaxies. He can do a lot of this stuff, so he has an insane amount of power, and it makes sense if that is, because there were some stills that does look like Vanessa is she's pregnant, that Sue is pregnant, that you can see her stomach is protruding a little bit. So it's not just rumors at this point. They tried to hide it in the trailer, but of course everyone's going frame by frame and looking through it. So that's going to be potentially huge, and we do kind of get this feeling, especially if Franklin is involved, that we're going to get potentially Galactus destroying this universe, and we get the Fantastic Four jumping through that bridge to safety, which probably Doctor Doom is going to follow along with that and bring him in. But it looks like we may hopefully get a big destructive Galactus scene where he's destroying everything, and we get that destruction that you don't want to have in the main timeline, because of course you don't want him destroying actual Earth, but we can destroy this alternative Earth with, hopefully it would be a great scene, because again, the only live action Galactus we got was a big cosmic cloud, and it just wasn't done that well. But we got to see Galactus. We see the back of his head, at least, looking over top of the Statue of Liberty, and people complaining about his size. Like, he can change his size at will. Like, he can be bigger than the Earth, or he can make himself fit on the Earth. But I mean, he looks to be 3, 4, 5 times taller than the Statue of Liberty, so that's still a pretty big size. Like, you got to try to make it somewhat relatable, and like, if you have tiny ants up to a guy's face looking through the clouds and being that big, like, how are they going to do anything against it? Like, you've got to kind of make it work for the universe you're creating, but I'm fine with that. Like, we might get him in multiple sizes throughout the film. Like, we got 3 seconds of him in the film, and people are complaining about his size. Like, let's watch the movie before we see. Like, just let it go. But I mean, it had 202 million views in the first 24 hours, which is one of the biggest trailers that Marvel has had yet. Like, a lot of people were waiting for this. We've been waiting for it, and I thought it looked fantastic. Like, I thought the trailer, it set the tone, set where you are in time and history. You got this alternative 1960s. You get to see the Fantastic Car driving around. You get to see that hybrid of 1960s, but it's futuristic. Only one you really didn't get to see is Reed Richards having any of his powers used, but that's probably the most difficult one for them to do right, because we saw a little bit with John Krasinski's Reed Richards when he's kind of becoming spaghetti from the Scarlet Witch, that, having someone stretch their body and make it look right is very hard to do. And that's might be some of the last special effects that they're really working on, is trying to make his powers of stretching and contorting his body look right in live action, because it's not an easy thing to do, to have someone's arm go from a normal size to 15 feet long and have it look believable.
Well, it's kind of harking back to, if I can make a comparison, to how they treated Miss Marvel's powers, where she has the ability to embiggen and stretch out and make things bigger, and they found a practical VFX way to make that work for Ms. Marvel. I'm wondering if they're going to do something similar like that for Reed in this. Don't know yet, but we'll kind of wait and see, and the jury's still out on that, which I'm fine. I'm ready to decide to see it. I have no doubt in my mind that this is going to be the next $1 billion Marvel movie.
It's going to be huge.
It's going to be huge. In my opinion, I'm kind of calling it early. Not that it's a hard call to make. It's going to be the highest grossing film of the year, if I were to guess.
It's going to be close because we do have another Avatar, which I've been kind of surprised about how much money they keep churning out, because, I mean, they're good films, but like that's out later this year, but July is absolutely packed.
I think it's going to be competitive with it at the end of the day. I mean, I think Superman hopefully will do really well for DC, but obviously we're talking about Marvel now. I think this is going to be a huge, huge, huge film, especially if it winds up being a good movie, because if it's good, word of mouth is going to spread and people are going to flock to it to see it. So I'm excited to see how well it actually does. Super excited to go check that out in July. July is absolutely stacked with movies, but that's at the top of my list of things I want to see this year for sure.
Yeah, because you got the Fantastic Four, you have Superman, you also have a Smurfs movie that's coming out. That's probably going to be at the bottom of the list of July because, past that, we also got the new Jurassic World Rebirth trailer, which showed off a lot of stuff. And I'm really, you got Gareth Edwards, who is a fantastic sci-fi director and has done a lot of good things. But, we got that ahead of time as well.
Yeah, so the trailer for this movie looks really, really good as well. Obviously, this is going to star Scarlett Johansson. It's got an incredible supporting cast along with it. But you get the premise of this film now, where they're going to this island. It takes place 5 years after the events of the last Jurassic World film. They're going to the island where they were creating the original dinosaurs for the original Jurassic Park. You see a lot of the imagery that's, corresponding to not only Jurassic World, but Jurassic Park as well. And you get, this island where they have these dinosaurs that were deemed too extreme for, the original Jurassic Park, right? So therein lies the conflict of the film, where it's like, oh, how could they possibly up the stakes for another Jurassic movie? Well, that's what it's going to be. These are the dinosaurs that, were too much to put in the original park. So you get these crazy looking dinosaurs or monster type dinosaur creatures that, we'll kind of dissect a little bit when we get a little further into talking about this. But you get all this imagery and you get what really looks like it's going to be a lot of fun and a lot of danger. Some of that danger that has been around, but felt like it's been a little bit missing since the original Jurassic Park movies. But at least from the feel of the trailer, I get the feeling that urgency and that concern is going to be back for these.
You have a little bit more of the horror aspect seems to be returning as well, because that's what I enjoyed about the first one. It had some horror aspects to it, which kind of helped it. And that's, you've got this kind of alien creature that they were trying to create the first T-Rex, but it went really wrong. And, we get a brief look at the design, and it said it was inspired by the Xenomorphs and the Rancor from Star Wars mixed with the T-Rex and stuff. And it definitely looks like we're going to get some horror aspects out of that. But I like the look of it. It has a little bit different look. It has, the dinosaurs look a little bit different. We got T-Rexes. We got the Dilophosaurus, the Spinosaurus, the Mosasaurus, Velociraptors, all of them showing up in the trailer. So we got the kind of the main group that brings the original Jurassic Park creatures with the Jurassic World creatures, along with bringing in that new. And I'm fine with them. A lot of people were a little upset about, they have this new kind of alien. Well, it's a mutation. It's one that they messed up on, and they couldn't do anything about. And maybe they'll explain why they kind of left this island to be, and it didn't get like bombed out of existence and stuff too. Right. But we also got a look which I'm excited about. I finally got around to reading the original Jurassic Park novel. I've got about 14 to 18 pages left to read on that. One of the scenes that was kind of really interesting and big within the Jurassic Park book was a river scene where the T-Rex is kind of attacking people in a river and on the water, and we got that in the trailer that it looks like, and they talked about they were able to bring some scenes and things they didn't bring from the original novel into the first film, that they're going to bring it into this one. So they're kind of trying to bring it all together. So they're combining Jurassic Park with Jurassic World into this new, Jurassic World Rebirth. They kept the Jurassic World in there. I was curious if they were going to rename it to something else, because we got Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, where we get Jurassic Universe or something, but they decided to keep the Jurassic World name in there, but probably just to keep that in people's heads better. But I'm really looking forward. Like, Gareth Edwards is a great director.
Sure.
He's done some really solid things. He's bringing a different kind of look. You've got Scarlett Johansson. You have Marshall Ali is in there as well. So you have, and I'm forgetting the guy who's in Wicked, and I can't remember his name right now, so I apologize on that. But it's got a solid cast to it. It looks dark. It looks like it has some horror aspects. I'm really looking forward to see what they do with that. And, they did talk a little bit about the story that they're going back to that island because they're looking for medicine. They want to use the DNA and use the blood of like the T-Rex and some of the original dinosaurs here, that they've somehow found that it could create some medicine that can be really good for humanity. But there's probably going to be a twist where it's just a big pharma that's just trying to get
Of course,
going to sell it for $10,000 a pill and all that. But there's a medical reason behind them wanting to go back to this island, because of course you have islands overrun with dinosaurs, everyone's dying. You've got to go back,
of course, and then you can't leave well enough alone. You gotta go back and try again, right? Nature always finds a way. That's their theme, right? Nature always finds a way to shoot itself in the foot when you go back to this island. But I'm excited for this. This is going to be a lot of fun. Another big summer blockbuster movie that, we finally get that look in the trailer for a little more information that we were kind of hoping for. Because, I know we've talked on the podcast before that we were a little concerned with the kind of rush feel that it felt like they were putting on this, because this didn't wrap filming that long ago.
Oh, they announced it like at the beginning of last year and like, hey, we're going to write this and we're going to film it and we're going to have it out next year. I'm like, wait. Yeah, the script's still being written. You're filming it a few months after, with the script still being worked on. It's going to be out the next year, but so far, so good.
It looks solid, so I'm excited to check that one out for sure. It's another one of our most anticipated films of the year, and at least judging by this first trailer, we got a lot to look forward to.
And that was kind of the two big trailers that premiered before the Super Bowl. Of course, after the Super Bowl this week, we'll be sharing and going over on our social medias about the other trailers that come out, because there's a whole lot of stuff coming out this year that we haven't really seen anything on. Do we get another ballerina trailer because of that coming out? We have, Superman might get another trailer during the Puppy Bowl, so that's going to be interesting. So that I will watch today, because we're recording on Sunday when the Super Bowl happens. I'll watch a Puppy Bowl for Superman and get I'm sure you're going to have a little crypto running around the Puppy Bowl in there and seeing what happens. And then I'll see after the Super Bowl all the trailers and stuff that comes out. But we've got a lot of big movies coming out this year, and a lot of big trailers that's going to be coming out this week. But having these two released before the Super Bowl is pretty big. Like, these are two of the films that a lot of people have been looking forward to the most this year. But we already got the first Superman trailer, but we got a little more information on Avatar. Do we get the first teaser for Avatar early, this year and stuff? But it's sounding more like Avatar: The Last Airbender, because they've already showing off the Wind Tribe now. So we've got water and we've got fire and we've got wind. Now we just kind of, I guess the originals are the Earth Tribe, so we've kind of got everybody.
Yeah, it's look like they're covering all their elemental bases, right? And then, they're going to form the Megazord at some point. Is that how that's going to end?
I think so. I think they will form together and make a Megazord.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But yeah, so many different trailers that are going to come out in the next week or so. I'm excited for that. I'm excited to get looks at all these movies that we're looking forward to coming out and covering this year for sure.
So the last news story I want to talk about this week is that we did get confirmation from Sarah Michelle Gellar herself that a brand new Buffy the Vampire Slayer series is in the works. They said they're on the right track, but they're not going to fully go through with it if they don't feel like they're doing it right. Sure. But she is going to return as Buffy. But Buffy this time around, of course, she's a little bit older now since that series came out, that, Buffy's going to be more of that mentor. So there's going to be a new Slayer. There's going to be probably some new villains and stuff that comes around, but she'll be more in a background mentor state, which can work fine. Like, if you give her some time to still be Buffy and show who she is and stuff, but also be, the mentor and leading a new Slayer, and maybe you get Angel and a few others coming back and see where you go from that. Because, the finale, that one was quite a bit talked about as well when the original Buffy ended. So we'll see how they kind of tie it into the original series to bring this new series about. And hopefully it's more than just an episode or two where she shows up and it's just like, okay, all right, I'll show up 4 episodes later. Hey, how you doing? All right, 5 episodes later. I hope she's pretty well involved in the series.
That's the hope. I mean, it's exciting that she's got it attached to it, because there have been kind of rumors running around that there's going to be something in the works. But if you're having Sarah Michelle Gellar herself, who, obviously was the star of the show very wildly popular show that still to this day has a lot of people, at the top of their favorite series of all time lists. Like it's a show that has a huge following. So I'm excited to see them take the next steps with that. Excited to have her in the fold and have kind of her imprint on it, because she is synonymous with this character on television, and the fact that she's going to be a part of it, it's going to hopefully have the same tone and the same feel that the original series had, to have her, kind of making sure they're still paying respects to that character while moving the story forward in a new direction. And I'm excited to see what they do with it. This is going to be one that's going to have a lot of people talking when it finally gets to see the light of day.
And I would assume Joss Whedon is not a part of this, because he's created a ton of fantastic stuff, but we also know the dark part of his story with a lot of things. We really haven't seen him around since the Avengers film, and kind of everything came out about what happened and how he treated Charisma Carpenter with Angel and everything else. So I would love to see her maybe get the Angel cast coming back up and showing up in Buffy, and kind of get a big reunion for everybody there. Would be fun and stuff. But yeah, it would probably be safe to assume that he has nothing to do with this, and which is good and bad. Like he's a good creative, but he's done some pretty dark, dumb, stupid stuff that, keep him away from this, and hopefully I would assume Sarah Michelle Gellar is going to executive produce and keep the show running. But it's going to be really interesting. Of course, it started out as a film that had a completely different cast, and it's a guilty pleasure of mine, mainly because of Paul Rubens being a vampire that never wanted to die. Like, he gets staked and he's just you think he's dead, and then like an after credit scene where no, he's still not dead. Like, he just was a vampire that didn't. I remember that more than anything about that film. It's a guilty pleasure one of it. Sure. And then they moved that into Sarah Michelle Gellar's Buffy. It was such a huge show. Launched a lot of. I mean, you had Seth Green in it. You had David Boreanaz. I was trying to think of Willow, of her name, because she went on to How I Met Your Mother and a bunch of other stuff from there. Allison Hannigan. Sorry for getting your name. So many names. It launched a lot of careers too from that. I mean, of course, Sarah Michelle Gellar went on to do quite a few things. You had Cruel Intentions. You had I Know What You Did Last Summer. You had quite a few Scooby-Doo that she did with her husband and stuff that James Gunn wrote, which a lot of people I don't think realize that he wrote the Scooby-Doo movies. And that's but it's really interesting to see Buffy coming back, and with that, and like I said, I loved Angel and Buffy as well, so I just kind of want to get that reunion, or maybe this will spawn off of bringing Angel back in some way, because I think David Boreanaz is wrapping up the SEAL Team show that he did, so I don't know what his next project is. Maybe they end up talking about doing another Angel series.
It'd be great to get that all together, and like I said, we're both excited to see that when it comes out. Now, I want to move now into our film review of the week, which is Love Hurts. This is starring Ke Kwan, Ariana DeBose, and this movie is, in my opinion, a ton of fun. You have Ke Kwan playing Marvin Gable, who's this, happy-go-lucky real estate agent who has a bit of a checkered past, and you kind of see that play out in this movie. This movie was very short. Mm-hmm. So what happens is, you get that past of his coming back to haunt him. You have this plot set up where we're gonna talk some spoilers here to kind of talk about the film, kind of talk about the plot. So if you don't want to have the film spoiled for you, go to our timestamp where we have the wrap up for this. That is going to be spoiler free, that we talk about at the end, as we always do when we rank the movie. But in this film, Ke Kwan's brother is the leader of this criminal organization who had a little bit of infighting, and some people in that group kind of swindled some money from him, and he wanted to have Ariana DeBose's character killed. Well, as you come to find out, Marvin, who's played by Ke Kwan, was his right-hand man, his brother, who was kind of his hitman, his monster that he unleashes to do all of his dirty work for him, kind of take care of things that need to be taken care of, if you catch my drift. Very violent, very skilled fighter, and now he's trying to rehabilitate himself and find this love and this life that he's built for himself as a very successful real estate agent, and just a whole bunch of fun shenanigans play out from it.
Yeah, because he was supposed to kill Rose, which was played by Ariana DeBose, but it turns out that he let her go because he had some feelings for her and stuff. And so that comes back because she decides on Valentine's Day to send out everybody some Valentine's cards that announces that she's back, and she's back for some revenge. And so it all goes to his brother, and also that subplot of the embezzlement and everything else, and this kind of plays out. Well, now we need to find Rose, so they come after Marvin. So this nice little life that he's built for himself is coming crumbling down around him, and I enjoyed it. It was fun. It had some really great action. So it was directed by a stunt director. He did a lot of the stunt work. He worked on the Avengers, and he's worked on Iron Man films. He most famously last did the John Wick films with the stunt coordination. So the action sequences look fantastic. Like they were brutal. They were over the top. I feel like the humor wasn't as I wasn't laughing as much as I expected. Like a lot of the humor kind of fell with a thud. Like it wasn't as funny as you expect to be. Some of the things I almost laughing because it was awkwardly funny. Like it wasn't funny because you get like his assistant falls in love with an assassin, and it's like you're kind of laughing at how ridiculous that is. Little cringy funny because he writes poetry and she's in a dark place. Well, she likes his dark poetry. Well, she loves him now because she finds him unconscious and helps, even though she sees a guy with a huge blade on his hand and stuff. She falls in love with him and stuff, and it was kind of ridiculous, over the top like that.
Yeah, he was a poet. He was an artist. Like it's fun. Like you have these people trying to get to Marvin to try to give up the location of Rose, which you come to find out he doesn't know anything, but they're not taking no for an answer. So it's
absolutely not.
It's very simple, and it's very simple in its plot and its setup. Like this movie's under an hour and a half. Like this is a short movie. Like I was genuinely surprised at how quick the movie went, but it kept your interest the entire movie. It was fun at like keeping you engaged the entire time. So there weren't really any lulls in this story where you get, the embezzlement story of, his some of his lackeys embezzling money from him, and you think Rose is the one at the forefront of that, but she gets double crossed, and it's just it's not the strongest plot in the world, but it's definitely one that makes sense when you're watching the movie. And I think they do a good job of putting all of it together. And like you said, the action sequences are just great. It's absurd. It's fun. It's one of those that you're not looking for any type of deep meaning to. It's just one that you could just go in and like, okay, I know I'm going to have a good time watching this. And that's kind of the way I approached it. The way I felt walking out of the movie is just, it was just fun, man. It's fun to see Ke Huy Quan just kind of like, as this unstoppable action, like just skilled hand-to-hand combat fighter, and it was just so much fun. It's so absurd and over the top that it was just like you can't help but, like you said, it's not the funniest thing. It wasn't as funny as I thought it was going to be too, but there were definitely some like humorous over the top. They're just like you and I just look at each other, just kind of laughing and shaking our heads at that. It still kept it fun for me.
Yeah, as you said, the plot was pretty thin and weak, but it did just enough to kind of tie it all together, that you got a full story out of it. It just didn't have an insane amount of depth. I would also say, there is a love story between Marvin and Rose. It doesn't go really too deep. You get that all of this are doing that. They're both kind of crazy about each other, but neither of them is really speaking up and acting on it and stuff. But that was kind of very thin, especially because Ariana DeBose's character was so over the top and kind of crazy with everything. And then it was just like, okay, I love you. Like, okay, wait, what? Like, it was a little thin in that. I still had a ton of fun with it, but it could have used a little more meat if it wanted you to really care about the romance or anything else and about this world. And then you have Marshawn Lynch in the movies playing King. He's got another guy with him, and then they're just drawing back and forth. But you get a subplot with him that his wife is leaving, and it's supposed to be a lot of funny, but it was kind of a little more okay. I did a slight chuckle with their stuff because it was just ridiculous. But you get Marshawn Lynch. He gets himself credited as Marshawn Beast Mode Lynch, and he also says Beast Mode in the movie.
It's so funny.
And he just got to include us. But he was fun. I thought, even though he's not the greatest actor, he played what he was supposed to be really well. Like, he was kind of a slapstick over the top henchman that was, and even at the very end, I won't spoil like the little extra credit scene, like they're laying there beat up and like, okay, like, hey, everything's good. Like, there was some real over the top silliness with it, but it is one that you could really turn your brain off and just enjoy the ride. Like I said, the action was fantastic. It was extremely well choreographed. Like, Ke Huy Quan was really good in the roles. You could see him doing really good job with all the moves and stuff. You've got a lot of gunplay and knife play and everything else. It got a little graphic with the violence at times too, with, knives and holes blown in people. You got some fun. He's got a dueling realtor who, Ke Kwan's character Marvin is all about love and about finding your next home and find the home for you. That's what I care about. And his rival is a black belt in karate.
Yeah, and it's funny given what you know about Marvin, and it plays out in a very funny way. But it's like I said, it's just silly. Like the premise is very silly. It's not meant to be taken seriously. It's just a fun short movie. That I definitely got some enjoyment out of. I could see myself watching it again just to kind of.
I plan on watching it again.
Just to kind of, and that's important when it comes to like how we want to rate a movie too, because like even if it's not the best movie you've ever seen, if it's one like okay, I had a good time. Like if I've got like a little over an hour to kill, I'll watch it again. Like I have no problem with that. And that's kind of how I felt about this movie. Like you said, the action in it is fantastic. You get some really practical fighting. You get some of the things that I find some humor in. You get some of the worst shooting you've ever seen in your life. Like you've got people who are basically a bunch of stormtroopers, like in their inability to hit a moving target that's not very far away from them. You know what I mean?
And they're not moving very fast.
Yeah, they're not running around like Barry Allen as the Flash. Like they're just basic people running that they can't hit with a gunshot. It's just so. That's the type of stuff that I find funny is, stuff that it's not really intended to be funny, but the optics of it are hilarious.
Then pulling like the obscene spoon and forks off the wall to fight and battle with.
And they're like, hell yeah. Like, we're going to mess you up with this giant, oversized novelty spoon and fork.
Which are probably thin aluminum that would have bent in half as soon as you hit somebody with it.
Yes, and it's so silly. And that's simple things like that make me laugh. I just can't help it. It's just...
Yeah, it had just enough charm and heart and everything to it. Like I said, it was a little thin on the romance subplot of it, and the overall story was it did just enough to it, because especially I had to laugh when it goes back to Ke Kwan's past when he is the assassin, and you get a lot of the jokes about she's going around drawing mustaches and all his pictures. Well, you get that in the past. He's got a little mustache with slick back hair, and that he's trying to play this. It's still hard to see him as a really like dark character, which I mean he can be, but of course this was more lighthearted. So him being that more brutal person, he kind of looked like, I don't know. There was someone else he reminded me of, but I can't currently place it. And it was making me laugh just doing the self comparisons in my own head of him in the past. But yeah, it was fun overall. Like, it's one that you just got to turn your brain off and go into the silliness and the absurdness of it. And like I said, it's an hour and 23 minutes or so, and that's with the credits and everything. Yeah, so it's probably even shorter than that. But it goes through the paces really well. You get also a great, and we've already seen in the trailers, you get a Goonies reunion with Sean Astin in it, which he actually gets a decent role, bigger role than I thought. I mean, it's still small, but he got some importance to the story and stuff to it. But he was fun being the overtop kind of Texan who's his boss and giving him the award. And, of course, his obsession with his Realtor of the Year award and everything that he gets. But it's absurd. It's over the top. It's crazy. But it has enough charm because Ke Kwan is just... I love everything I've seen him in. It was so amazing to see him come back and everything everywhere all at once, where he got to do little drama and he got to do action and got to do comedy. And he kind of continues similar to that in here. It's a little silly and absurd, but he gets to do a little bit of drama, not much, when it comes to, how he's feeling with his emotions in this new world that he's created for himself, that he doesn't want to lose it because he actually likes what he does. And, he's creating heart cookies and taking them out. And there was also absurdity where they're hiding out in somewhere and his realty clients show up to say that they want to buy the house when they're hiding out in it. Like, who just shows up at a house thinking that the realtor is going to be there? Because I don't think it ever said that he had a meeting with them, because he said he hopes to sell it this week. But they just show up randomly to a house that they're looking to buy without ever talking to the realtor to get a showing. And, they just happen to be there, and, we're going to do this. And even more insanity happens when they show up.
Yeah, you get this really fun, over-the-top scene where he's still trying to be this really super nice, lovable realtor, while also going out and kicking butt, and then it kind of fuses together in a really fun way that, it's just absurd, and it really helps tie the end of the film together, and it leaves me in a place that I still want to go see it again. I kind of want to go back and watch it again just to kind of get that same enjoyment out of it, just to see some of the absurd things that I may have missed when I first watched it. But it was so fun, and it brought a smile to my face to watch this, because it's just sometimes, you know, you need movies like that sometimes that are just lighthearted. Like, it doesn't have to be super deep, but it's not the worst thing ever written either. It's just one of those fun, like, you know, you can throw it on like a Saturday when you're cleaning the house and that's on in the background. It's one of those types of movies for me that I can kind of see, like, okay, like, I'm going to do like this deep clean of my living room. Let me throw this on in the background while I work.
Here's this one I'd say it's hard to recommend, like, if you want to go to a date night, even though if you like action and you like comedy, it's little bit light on the comedy, it's a little bit light on the romance. It's mainly you're wanting to silly action. Like, I have to say it's got silly action, but it's kind of low on the actual humor that hits. Like, it tries a lot with several jokes, but the jokes just don't land as they think it's going to land and doesn't hit. But in the end, Love Hurts was a fun, silly, absurd, over-the-top, short action film. And Ke Huy Quan was really good in it. Ariana DeBose was solid as kind of the more over-the-top Rose. It had really fantastic action sequences. I think that was the biggest highlight of the film. You had Marshawn Lynch being over-the-top and having some fun in it and stuff as well. I would probably give the film around a 6.5. Like, it's not a bad film. It's one I will watch again, but with the plot being kind of thin, the romance being a little bit thin, and a lot of the humor falling short of kind of what they were wanting, it was a little disappointing in that aspect, but it is one that you can go into and have a lot of fun if you turn your brain off and you just go with the silly absurdness of it. It's a short, fun, quick little watch, but I think it's worth watching, even though I gave it a 6.5. That seems really low. I think it's fitting for it because it does have its misses, but it had enough that made it a fun, watchable movie.
Yeah, and for a lot of the same reasons you did, I'm giving it about a 7 myself. So I think the fact that it's not a super long movie, had this film been like 30 minutes longer, I probably would have bumped it down a grade just a little bit. But the fact that it's such a compact movie and short, and it gets to the point, it keeps your interest the entire time. It is humorous. It's not the funniest film you're ever going to see, but it's not the least funny film you're ever going to get to see. Like, not all the jokes land, but if you have a specific type of humor where, like, some of the absurd things that happened in the movie, I could find people laughing. We had people laughing in the theater when we watched it with us too. Like, there's people that are going to get some enjoyment out of it. Go see it alone just for the action. Like we said, we can't emphasize enough the fight scenes in this movie. You could tell they were directed by somebody who knows what they're doing. Like you said, it was directed by Jonathan Eusebio, who is a part of like the Bourne movies, Avengers, you know, Black Panther, John Wick. Like, he's been part of like some of the most iconic film scenes of the last, you know, decade and a half, really. So having, you know, him behind the direction of the film, you're going to get the solid action that you're wanting out of it. So for that reasons, I will give it a 7 because it has that rewatchability and the action is as good as it is. The humor is good enough to keep it around. And the fact that it doesn't overstay its welcome, like you said, it's an hour and 20 something minutes with credits. So it's a very quick watch. It's an easy watch. And for that reason, I'll give it a 7.
And I agree. I was torn between like a 6.5 and 7 because like I enjoyed it. I had fun with it. It's a film I'd go back and watch, but it did have its problems and issues. The biggest highlight of it is it had solid action sequences between the gunplay, the knife play, and just hand-to-hand combat. It was all done really well and fun, but there was some stuff that just didn't hit with the humor, especially with like the accountant. A lot of his stuff I think was supposed to feel a lot more humorous with him, with his teeth and his talk and everything, and just that kind of fell flat. So some of those aspects, it falls flat, but you turn your brain off, go have fun. It's well worth going and seeing in theaters because of the action. Like, you had a fantastic director who knows how to do stunts, as you mentioned, doing a really good job with it. Like, the Bourne series is still one of my favorite series because of the stunts and the action and fighting, and he was involved with it. He's been a part of a ton of huge series. Of course, John Wick has been one of the biggest action franchises out there, and you could almost say John Wick stories can be a little thin, but it did a whole lot more than kind of this film, because again, an hour and 23 minutes is not a whole lot of time to really set up your plot, your characters, your romance, and everything else. So like, it did just enough with all of those, and that's kind of why I put it where I did. But it's fun. I recommend people go see it because it was a lot of fun.
For sure, and Love Hurts is out in theaters now. Can't recommend enough going to check it out in the theaters. And if you get a chance to check it out and you like it, or if you didn't like it, come to our social medias and let us know. Come talk to us on, YouTube. Join our Discord. Come talk to us there. Let us know what you thought of the film.
Yeah, heading into our TV breakdown of the week, we do have episodes 3, 4, and 5 of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man on Disney+. So, we're continuing on with this kind of bulk drop. So we got the first 2 episodes, now we got the next 3. And we're picking up where the last episode ended. So there's going to be some spoilers because we have to talk about what this reveals and, who knows what. Because at the end of episode 2, Norman knows that Peter is Spider-Man. So right away, he's got potentially, of course, from the comics and everything, one of his biggest enemies in Norman, who, ends up being the Green Goblin. We don't know exactly how that's going to play out in this series yet, but he already knows. And Peter's a little apprehensive of him knowing. He tries to kind of play it off, but Norman ends up in episode 3 ends up inviting him to dinner to talk to him. So he rents out an entire huge expensive restaurant just for them to talk about it. And he still tries to deny, but Norman finally gets him to admit that, I'm Spider-Man. And we get an interesting dynamic through the rest of these 3 episodes between him and Norman Osborn and everything about who Spider-Man is and what he's doing as being able to be the intern and being a student and being Spider-Man and having people know. And it's still kind of slow. Like, I'd still say the first 5 episodes have been a little slow, but it's building this world. Like, it's kind of weird because it's not giving us an origin story, but it is. But it's giving us a completely different origin story because we have a lot of things being swapped and changed and doing things differently. But I've enjoyed what it's given us so far.
Yeah, for sure. And you jump into this 3rd episode here, the first episode of the week for us, and you get that dynamic with Norman and Peter where, now Norman and Peter are going to work together. Norman's going to help Peter out here, and that involves upgrading his suits and trying to help where he can because, he's already impressed by Peter's scientific knowledge, and he goes to this great length to explain how he discovered that Peter was Spider-Man. So he talks about, paring it down to the 4 people you see that get these internships with Amadeus Cho and, the others that get this internship opportunity at Oscorp. And he says he's narrowed down who Spider-Man is to these 4 people based on their scientific knowledge. And, you get, how he got to finding out that it was Peter. And you get this really fun kickoff with, them, trying to build Spider-Man's brand more or less is Norman's way of kind of like trying to polish Spider-Man a little more quickly. And you get this fun sequence where he's trying out different various upgrades to his suits that Norman is designing for him. And you get, different variations and different absurd looks at the suits. He tries to start off with a cape that doesn't go too well when he
yellow suit with a red cape.
Mm-hmm. You get different color schemes. You get the cape that he immediately says no to because he gets caught on a thing trying to swing, and he's still trying to move as he would with Spider-Man, and you get a little fun sequence back and forth, and then he lands on a really cool black and white, like white with black webbing version of the Spider-Man suit that we all know, and it's kind of a cool look that he kind of carries with him throughout these next couple episodes that he lands on. But you get this build-up of other stories as well that kind of really take these next 3 episodes, and I'm kind of starting to see the pattern of the rationale behind the episodes dropping as they do, because they do kind of feel like little mini story arcs. Like episode 1 and 2 is this starting to be Spider-Man. Now you get the conflict of Norman knowing who you are. Well, now you get the working together with Norman and these other villains coming out and kind of testing it. And you see that all of these villains have this upgraded tech that's being, given to them by somebody. And you come to find out who that is. And, you get the reveal of that. And now you start to get these other characters coming into play. Now you get the story with Lonnie, who becomes a much bigger part in these next couple episodes because Lonnie, winds up taking his brother's place in the 110 Street gang that, if you know anything about who Lonnie is, and you get kind of a cool reveal with him by the end of this 3rd episode. So you get all these pieces moving forward with some really fun action scenes that I think they really cleaned up in these next 3 episodes. I think some of the animated issues that you may have had from the first 2 ones.
It still was a little fuzzy in the background to me at times, but it looked a lot better.
You can see they're starting to really find themselves in these episodes, but you get a nice continuation of this story. You get a personal, fun moment for me as a wrestling fan. One of the top henchmen, Bulldozer, in the 110 gang that Lonnie's a part of is voiced by Big E, who is a WWE superstar who, if you know anything about Big E, his career's been kind of taking a back seat as he's dealt with a broken neck, but he's voicing the character of Bulldozer in this one. Ton of fun. I was excited to see him get to finally talk about it when these episodes dropped, so that was a lot of fun as well. But this is a good chunk of episodes to kind of really push the story forward in this world building that we're getting. You get this a little bit of different background on some of these characters that especially Harry's story. Harry's story is pretty interesting here too. So now you're starting to see that dynamic with Harry and Peter start to play out a little bit, which they're best friends from this, but it takes a little bit of a different path than what we're used to.
Yeah, because we kind of get still a lot of mystery with Norman. Like he's acting like a good guy that he's helping, but he admits that, as you mentioned, that all these interns, I had a suspicion that they were either Spider-Man or they were working for Spider-Man. So he's got a different angle that he's working than, pitching to Peter that he basically wants to create a new Avengers, because we do get the Avengers reference. We get the airport scene from Civil War being shown without Spider-Man, of course, within there, but we get a lot of the Avengers and Iron Man and Captain America and Thor and others, get reference in here. But Norman says he wants to create the next group, but it does sound like he's actually trying to create a weapon. He's not, so he's kind of like Obadiah from Iron Man mixed with Norman a little bit, mixed with Tony Stark. So you're definitely getting a new kind of different dynamic with Norman Osborn, because he seems like he's trying to be helpful and good to Peter, but he has his ulterior motives behind it as well, because we get to see some scenes at Aunt May is trying to sell off some of Ben's stuff, that they're behind on money, and of course Norman writes him a check and is doing all this to try to get him to agree to be his Spider-Man and be his kind of minion. Like he's playing the slow game. He's not pushing things too hard, because he's trying to make sure he gets Peter on his side and doing what he wants. Even with the suits, like we got one that was a wasp and he's got little bitty tiny flapping wings, and he gets this dark, almost vampire-esque suit that he can fly and glide with, but it scares the crap out of a little girl. And he's like, yeah, that's probably not going to fly. And that kind of dark blue, white, and red suit that he gets, kind of Future Foundation type of suit, which you only get a little splash of red in there. It looked good, but it's kind of a good starting point, and it's giving you a reason why his suit is changing all the time and all that. But yeah, with Harry's story, it gets really interesting, because Peter decides to just swing right into Norman's office and take off his mask, and there's Harry just sitting there. So immediately he's revealed himself to both of the Osborn. Like, all right, Norman and Harry both know who I am, and we actually get that to where now Harry is kind of his oracle, is his guy, man in the chair that he's tapping into his phone and talking to him while he's out on missions, and he's helping him out. So you have potentially two, his best friend, but also a big villain to him in the comics, and his dad's a big villain to him. They both already know his identity and are helping him, but it's going to be really interesting to see how that dynamic plays out and how things change between them, and how them knowing his identity is going to change things so early, because we really haven't had that in very many of the Spider-Man adaptations and animated or live action, that villains have known his potential villains, because maybe they never become villains in this verse. We don't really know yet. That they already know his identity so early into the series. I mean, we're 3 episodes in, and he's already got multiple people who know his secret identity.
Yeah, we're definitely building a little bit of different dynamic. You get a little bit of fun background on Harry. Obviously Norman is kind of that Tony Stark-esque person in this world here, more or less, where he's, the most famous person there. His son is, his son, and he's this social media influencer with millions of followers. So you get kind of this modern, updated take on who Harry is in this world, and you get a little bit of that back and forth with a fun conversation with Peter and Nico, because Harry drives Peter to school, and they see Peter getting out of Harry Osborn's car, and everybody's like, "Oh, Harry's hobnobbing with a celebrity now," so now he gets starting to look at it a little differently. And you get a fun conversation between Peter and Nico. Where
if you get Nico, it's like you're showing that she likes him a little bit more than she's letting on to. So you got that dynamic with it all. She gets a little jealous of the relationship with Harry.
Yeah, I love how she says she was following him ironically, which is very funny. But it's very teenager-ish too. You know what I mean? So it's ton of fun, a little bit of a different take here. But yeah, I really like where the story is going. It's really building up. You get, Lonnie really integrating himself by the end of this third episode with the 110 gang. There's a face off between the rival gang, the Scorpions, and he's still trying to hang on to that high school part of himself while not being fully invested into the gang. Because you see the dynamic of him not going to football practice. He's a star quarterback on the football team, and you see him kind of giving himself more to the gang, and then you get this, by the end, you get the fight between the 110 gang and the Scorpions, where he kind of saves the head of the 110 gang. Now he's kind of earned the trust of the gang now.
And the nickname.
And he finally gets the nickname that, if you're comic book fans or you know anything about his history, he gets the name of Tombstone, which is, another one of Spider-Man's biggest villains. So you get these fun little twists on these stories of these characters who are ultimately big rivals for Spider-Man, but they're like allies in this because you have Lonnie and Peter as, good friends who wind up, it's going to be real interesting to see where they take this movie forward, because now you're starting to see him kind of enjoy that moniker that he gets from the gang, and now you're going to see where that goes in the next couple episodes. But this was fun. This was a fun grouping of episodes because we didn't really even touch on the dynamic of the fight that he had in the Unicorn episode as well. That was a really, really good, strong battle sequence in that one too.
Yeah, because we had another kind of underlying story that was playing out, is that we've had these criminals getting these special equipment, helmets or leg peripherals or hand stuff that gives them kind of different powers. They can shoot stuff, or they can run really fast, or giving blades and stuff. And, including the guy who was setting the wrong building on fire, they all had the same symbol. And we come to find out in episode 5 that, kind of what we all expected it to be, but Doc Ock was behind all that. So he's been running this operation where he's been selling these weapons and these enhancements to different people to kind of start creating his empire. And he wants people to know the name of Otto Octavius and Doc Ock. And, we kind of got him mixing into a bit more now. So we've got definitely showing that he's just going straight up. He's criminal. He's the bad guy, even though we got Norman starting off as, okay, maybe he's all right. Doc Ock is straight. Yeah, I'm the underground guy supplying all these criminals with all their equipment that they need. And that was kind of really fun. Especially with the villains here, we're getting that really like old throwback classic look to these characters of how they were drawn. Like when they originally were kind of created, we get the very blocky square head that he has and stuff with it, very squish square head and stuff too, and with the glasses on, and it's got that just really classic comic book look to it. But I do feel like the animation, the presentation looked better. It's still fuzzy, but it really is trying to bring a comic book to life with these visuals. And yeah, there was a lot of fun throughout. We also got the Sokovia Accords being mentioned about superhero registration and everything else going on there, and everyone talking about that. And it was a lot of fun. Like, we got a lot of setup between Harry and Norman and with Doc Ock, and kind of exactly where we're going. Like, we're about halfway through the season now, and we've got a good setup. So it's going to be really interesting to see in this next block of episodes that drop where exactly the story goes. We already know where we've got up to 3 seasons are going to happen of this show. And this first season has, at least the first half, has been a big setup. And I'm curious to see exactly where it goes. Like, it's an origin story, but it's not an origin story. And it has mixed up a lot of the characters and done a lot of changes, but I've been on board with it. I'm fine with these changes. We've had these characters done in the same way quite a lot, and it's given us, more sympathetic look at Lonnie and Tombstone, and that he's just a guy who's been put in bad position, his entire family is looking to him, and like even his parents are looking at him like, you're the one who's going to bring us out of like everything, but he's got to look out for his brother, and he's like, he doesn't really get to worry or care about himself because he's having to care about everybody else, which gets him involved in this gang and, becoming Tombstone and all that. And we'll see exactly just how deep into Tombstone that he gets. But it's been an interesting dynamic, especially starting Harry. Like, Harry doesn't go to a school. He's homeschooled, so they're meeting through, him being Spider-Man, basically. So it's definitely a different introduction. So, it is mixing a lot of stuff up, but I think they've done a good job with everything they've mixed up so far. It's giving a different twist and a different look to it and stuff as well. Like Norman not really caring that he wants to be Spider-Man. We'll mix it up and we'll do some other stuff and just have the fun with the suits. Like, it's been kind of a nice refreshing take on Spider-Man that we're doing things a little bit differently.
Yeah, for sure. And it's going to, like you said, it's going to be fun to see where they go with it. And one of my favorite things that they deviated from what you know of the MCU and what you've seen in Spider-Man. So you see the Civil War battle that's very much pulled from the MCU visuals of, you know, that fight that happens at the airport, obviously minus Spider-Man. But one of my favorite little twists on it is in the MCU, Spider-Man is very much Team Tony Stark. So Tony's the one that shows up and offers him a grant to do this, that, and the other, and he gets Spider-Man on his side in the battle with Cap. But if you notice anything about Peter in this, Peter is a huge fan of Captain America, and doesn't really idolize Tony Stark in this. He idolizes Captain America because you have a fun little fanboy moment between Harry and Peter where they both realize that they're both Captain America fans, and it's kind of a little fun little bonding moment for the two of them. And it was a fun little twist on what we've already seen in the MCU, that he's actually on Team Cap in this, which is so funny.
I love their discussion too, because they're like, well, yeah, I think Captain America's actually really dead, and the one that we're seeing is actually a clone. So they're going into these conspiracies and everything else, and going on to it like, that's not really Captain America, that's a clone. Like, okay, do they play on, you know, clones and everything else, or is that just poking fun at fans and controversy and rumors and everything else? It could be a mix of that, but yeah, that was really fun about seeing that. Oh, they're switching up. That he would actually be on Cap's side and not Iron Man, because in this universe, his Iron Man, his Tony Stark is basically Norman Osborn. So you don't really, you know, you're seeing that maybe his motivations and other things, like he's still Spider-Man. He's still got that he wants to help people. And there's a nice moment where in one of these episodes, I forget which one, and it might have been in the first two, where he captured a woman who, you know, had stolen from a store and let her go. He's still showing that heart and stuff. That was in the first two, but you're still getting that heart that he's trying to do good and be the good guy and actually help people out and think people need second chances and not everyone's bad, and that, you know, everyone needs, and that's what, you know, Spider-Man should be. He's supposed to be the one that kind of cares about everyone else, but it's also already getting into that struggle of how does he go to school and maintain school? How does he maintain the internship, which he actually turned in until, you know, Norman talked him back into becoming a Spider-Man and brought him right back into the fold of doing the internship. But then he's got Spider-Man and everything with Norman, and then his relationships, about his friendships with Lonnie, and then Nico kind of being a potential love interest that we're starting to see that build. You kind of felt the beginning, but you're seeing more of that jealousy of when people are taking Peter's time away from her, she's a little hurt by it, which it could either be just she's a teenager and she's hurt by being stood up, but there definitely seems to be a little something more, because they were supposed to go to the movies together, and he is inviting Harry, and she's like, is it, or he asks her, is that all right? And she's like, yeah, sure, that's fine. Like doing the whole, yeah, it's fine. Like, okay, yeah, she's might have a little crush on him from that moment.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's going to be fun to see how it plays out. You got these three, and then you got the next 2 weeks, you got the last 5 episodes dropping. You got another 3-episode drop coming up this week, and then you've got the final 2 episodes coming the following week to kind of get through this month and get to the end of this first season. And I'm really excited to see where they go, because you got a lot more that we know is coming based on like the trailers that we've seen. We know there's a certain blind superhero that I'm very looking forward to seeing when his episode shows up, because he's got a very exciting show coming out next month that we're both super hyped to check out. But excited to see how they integrate some more characters in this and continue this world building that they're doing. And I'm here for the ride, man. I'm having fun with, you know, this entire story that they're telling, and it's a lot of fun. It's making a lot of sense, and you know, that's ultimately what we want. And I'm in the same boat as you. We've talked about it last week. I'll reiterate it again. I don't mind the creative liberties that they're taking with these characters, like you said, because the origin stories have been beaten to death, in my opinion, in a lot of these, and we're getting a fun, fresh take on this. I'm excited to see where they go with it, because you see these characters that, if it's just enough of a wink and a nod to actual like hardcore comic book, you know, lovers like we are, that know the origins of a lot of these characters and who they become, but they're telling this story through a different lens and a different way of presenting these people that I'm all for, and I'm excited to see where they go with it.
Yeah, I've had a ton of the first 5 episodes of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. I've had a ton of fun with. It's been enjoyable. It's mixing stuff up, which it's done it in a good way. Like, I'm not, you know, really wanting to say, oh, that's not very good. Oh, why are they doing this? It's been a slow burn so far. So first 5 episodes, it's really establishing your base. It's really setting up this world, where Peter is, where kind of these villains are, where everything is. It's establishing that base. So these next 5, I think, are going to be really interesting to see where it's going forward and what we're setting up for the next few seasons. But I've had a ton of fun with it so far, and I'm looking forward to see how the season ends.
Yeah, and one thing that we haven't really touched on too much is we're doing a lot of world building, we're doing a lot of character development, we're doing a lot of plot development, but you still get a good mix of action in these episodes. So you still get fights in every episode. You get Peter going through and stopping criminals, doing this, that, and the other. So you get to scratch that itch as well, where you get the good action. And the two fight scenes in this that he really gets into with these groups that have these enhancements and these people that have these enhancements, like it's really well done visually. It's fantastic work, in my opinion, especially in the straight off of a comic book onto your screen style that they're animating this show into, which I think they're doing a fantastic job of. And it all looks really smooth, really clean. And I'm excited to see them continue that with these next couple episodes moving forward, because you get a good bit of everything. You get the action, you get the development, you get the character stories, and you get everything tying away that is cohesive and it makes sense, and it's really moving forward in a continuous plot, that it's not like this episode, this thing happens that we're never going to touch on again. It's a really good flowing continuation of a continuous story that doesn't get chopped off like a lot of cartoon episodes tend to do. That'll tend to have this one-off episode that has no consequential involvement in any story you're telling. This is a continual story that they're telling over 5 episodes, and I think they've done a really good job of that so far.
Yeah, each episode has had something that matters to the core and the heart of what's going on in the story.
A lot of fun.
We're building Lonnie up, we're building Peter up, we're building Norman and all of them up. We're getting that to a point where something is going to happen soon. Like,
sure. Yeah.
We've got Lonnie getting the Tombstone name. We've got Peter. He's finally kind of Spider-Man, but it's not exactly still what he wants. Like, we're still fighting between he's accepting Norman's help, but he doesn't still fully care of everything that, like, Norman's not listening to him. You listen to him some, because you get a conversation after he gets the blue, white, and red suit that they're like, it needs more color. I'm like, I thought that too. Like, he's still not fully, but he's a young geeky kid who doesn't know how to assert himself yet. Yeah. Like, he doesn't know how to just straight up say that, hey, this is not what I want more of this. Because he did try during the whole suit process showing, well, this is what I've been, we don't worry about that. Like, Norman just immediately shot him down, and he's like, okay, and he just accepts it and goes on. And he finally, we've already started seeing it happen a little bit, where he's starting to speak up, like after he scared the little kid, like, yeah, we can't have this. Like, I got to have something else. So you're getting that dynamic where Peter's character is starting to morph and change a little bit. He's getting a little more assertive, but he's still that geeky young kid who just doesn't know. He's still
a teenager.
Yeah, still not sure of what he's doing. But the first 5 episodes of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man are on Disney Plus right now. The next episode batch will drop on Wednesday. We've got 2 more Wednesday drops before this season is over. We've got 2 more seasons coming, but like we mentioned, once this is over, we go straight into Daredevil Born Again, which we cannot wait. And this has been a fun kind of lead up to it. Like, they're not going to be interconnected, even though we do have voicing showing up. We don't think that's going to fully meld, but it's going to be interesting to see if there is anything that they do with Daredevil and Kingpin in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man that matters or shows up within Daredevil Born Again, because they are for 2 vastly different audiences. Like, we're the audience of both, but that's definitely more for the adults to watch.
For sure. And if you get a chance, if you've been checking it out like we have, watching it along, let us know what you think of the episode. We'd love to hear from you. Come to the YouTube version of this episode. Leave a comment on what you think of the show. Leave a comment on any one of our social media posts that we post throughout the week, talking about, this, that, and clips of the show that we share. So we'd love to hear from you, hear what your thoughts are on the show as well. Come talk to us about it.
So what's coming up this week is we have our potential first big blockbuster of the year, and that is, of course, Paddington in Peru.
Yeah.
That could potentially be, I'm joking about it, but Paddington, the first 2 have become such a big cult classic. They've made a decent amount of money.
Yes.
It's done really well. Like, there's a lot of people, adults and kids, who are really looking forward to Paddington.
Yeah, and I know you're doing it tongue-in-cheek, but also know the fact that Paddington is very popular. And I know you're doing it because of the other movie that we're we're going to get to that's coming out this week that we're going to review next week. But Paddington's going to do big business too. That's going to be a movie that a lot of families are going out to see. I know some people that are very excited to take their kids to this movie.
And I'll probably be taking my kid to see it as well. But of course, the biggest movie of the week is Captain America: Brave New World. Now, of course, there's a lot of mix on this because we know it's had so many different reshoots and stuff that it's making a lot of bold claims, like it's like Captain America: The Winter Soldier. It's this and that. We've got, Anthony Mackie as being, from this, we got that at the end of Endgame into his own series and now his own movie, and we're going to see how he can carry Captain America, the Falcon Captain America, into the cinematic universe here. And we got Harrison Ford showing up as taking over Thunderbolt Ross, and we've got him as Red Hulk and stuff. There's a lot to look forward to, but there is a little apprehension because we know that it's had a lot of problems with screen testing of it and reshoots and everything else. We got like Seth Rollins, all of his stuff was cut apparently from the film, and he's already warning people, like, I'm not even joking, like, I'm not going to be in the film. They made so many changes that my part of it just didn't make sense anymore. So they've done a lot of cutting. Hopefully it's turned into a decent movie.
Yeah, and it's one that we're definitely going to look forward to talking and checking out. It's the first big Marvel movie of the year. It's the first of 3 that are coming out this year. This is a good one to kick off, and right about the right time of year for it to come out. I'm excited to check that one out.
Over on the streaming side, we have the 4th in the series of the Bridget Jones movie. So we got Bridget Jones, Mad About the Boy. That will be on Peacock on February 13th. And we've talked about it quite a lot, that Apple TV Plus has some of the best productions for film and TV and everything that we've seen in a long while, but they don't do a whole lot of advertising. And I think we have yet another one this week that I don't think many people have heard about, but it's got Anya Taylor-Joy, and it has Miles Teller in this action suspense thriller movie called The Gorge that'll be out on February 14th. But like I said, I don't think many people know it's coming out, and it looks really good. If you go and watch a trailer and check it out, like, you've got some good star power behind it, but it looks like it might be an interesting movie. And again, Apple TV Plus has had more hits and misses, but it just hasn't been advertised that this is an Anya Taylor-Joy movie coming out on Apple TV Plus.
Yeah, raise your hand if you knew this film was coming out. Now, don't lie. I know a majority of you probably have your hands down that you didn't know about this, but that's the point we're trying to make about Apple. Like, obviously, we're going to know about these things just because this is what we do and this is what we love to talk about. But, like, they're so terrible about advertising their stuff. It's like they love to gloat about it when it becomes a hit. Like, you hear about how great Ted Lasso is after so many people talked about how great Ted Lasso is, and Severance, and all these other things that they've got. So many good stuff and so many hits coming out on Apple, and they're getting huge names to be a part of these projects. Like, they're not getting like B-list, D-list, C-list, celebrities to be in these movies. They're getting big names. Like, Anya Taylor-Joy is a big name in Hollywood. Like, she's a very well-known actress. Like, they get all these big name people to be involved in these projects, and you rarely hear about them because they're so terrible about advertising. Like, if they put half the effort that they should into these, they would be significantly bigger deals. But this is definitely one that's going to be worth it. I saw the trailer for it. I'm excited to check this one out.
I'm ready to see it.
Like, it looks really, really good. So if you get a chance, go check out the trailer and decide if you want to watch it, but get Apple TV Plus and check that one out for sure.
Here's a original, saw the name The Gorge, Apple TV Plus. I haven't seen anything on this. I don't know anything about this. I'm going to add it to the list, and I go and find the trailer and I'm like, wait.
Yeah.
It's this movie that looks really well shot, really well acted. You've got some big names in, like, okay, why haven't I heard about this until a week before it came out?
Right. Yeah, and it's just another case of Apple's terrible advertising.
So over On Demand, which this one has kind of suffered a little bit from advertising. Not a lot of people went and saw it. They stopped reporting the numbers on it, but it was raved about how good of a movie it was. We never ended up getting to see it, so I'm looking forward to checking On Demand. But that's the Robbie Williams biopic, Better Man. It is out on demand this week. I really want to check it out, but yeah, of course, it's replacing him with a monkey, and a lot of people just in the U.S., you may not know him as much. Like, he's had some hits that have come over here. He's much bigger overseas and stuff, but replace him with a monkey. But it's been said to be a fantastic film. Like I said, it didn't do very well, but I'm looking forward to see how it does on demand when people finally get a chance to sit down and watch it. And of course, once it hits streaming after this is probably when it's going to kind of blow up a little bit more and people are able to see just what kind of film it was. Because I've heard nothing, for those who've actually gone and seen it, I've heard nothing but good things about it.
Yeah, same. I'm in the same boat with you. It's one that we hope to have gotten a chance to check it out, but with so much coming out and so much we've had to cover, we just haven't had the time to do it. I plan on watching it for sure. I've know of some people who have gone to seen it and said it's really well done, so I'm excited to check that one out too.
Yeah, so that'll be out on February 11th, along with One of Them Days, which is a Keke Palmer comedy, a film that looked like it'd be pretty decent watch. So I'm looking forward to checking that one as well. But you've got an interesting mix there, and then you can go back on our archives to see what we thought about this film. But Flight Risk is on demand on Valentine's Day, along with the thriller Inheritance. So both of those will be out on Valentine's Day. We're not going to lie to you. We did not enjoy Flight Risk at all. It was rough. I can't imagine seeing myself going back, but we want everyone to check stuff out. There's some stuff that people will absolutely hate that others will absolutely love. That's why, you know, even reviews from professionals, from us, from podcasters, from everybody else, in the end, they are opinion. You're looking for different things, and the bigger professionals have a checklist of stuff that they need to go after, but you know, most films and most TV shows are based off of your emotional reaction. How did you connect with it? How did you feel about the acting or the music or their cinematography? Everyone looks for something different. Being a graphic designer, I'm really nitpicky with special effects and stuff with it and how that stands out. My eye just looks at it like, oh, I can tell when all that. And being a writer as well, I'm looking for depth to the stories and everything. Flight Risk had none of that.
None of it. It is just, I'm laughing because I saw your face shift because I knew you were going to name drop that movie. And it's just to see the joy just leave your face when you shift to know that you're talking about Flight Risk. Makes me laugh so much. The movie is not good in our opinion, but please go watch it and form your own opinion. If you think completely differently, if you think this film is fantastic, come talk to us and we would love to argue and tell you how wrong you are. But go form your own opinion.
And please check out the physical release, the images that they've done of that.
God.
So it's been seen in the trailers that Mark Wahlberg has a bald horseshoe type of haircut, but he wears a hat and part of it. They literally designed the slip cover, so when you take the transparent slip cover off, it's got the hat and the hair on, but when you lift it off, Mark Wahlberg is bald underneath. Like,
hilarious marketing. Genius marketing.
It's genius, hilarious marketing, but the problem is, like, this film was never advertised or presented like it's a comedy action film. It was presented as a serious thriller, but the movie and the slipcover both scream like, all right, we know this is a silly movie, like, but you didn't make a silly movie. You made a serious movie that was bad.
It's and that's what makes it funny, in my opinion. It's so dumb and so ridiculous that, you know what, if you're going to market it, let's have some fun with it. I think I almost want to buy a copy of the movie just for that, just to laugh at it.
Take it back.
I will not
take
buy
it back.
I said I almost want to buy it, but it's so funny because it's not intended to be, and that's what makes it so funny for me.
So over on the TV side, this one I've been somewhat interested in checking out. I've seen one trailer on it so far. It's a brand new competition series on Fox called Extracted, drops on February 10th. And the best way I can describe this is like the Hunger Games. Like it's you have a group of people trying to survive out in this wilderness and stuff, but their family and their friends are up in a room and they get to make decisions. All right, are they're suffering? Am I going to pull them out or do I give them help? And it's kind of got these Hunger Games like twists. Like if you've watched the movies or read the books, you know there are people who can send gifts or they can do stuff like that. So don't know if it's going to be any good or not, but it looks like it has an interesting premise for a competition series. Why, you know, Squid Game, they went extremely fast into getting competition series on that, and doing a Hunger Games-esque one kind of took a little bit longer because that's when I see the trailer, when I hear the premise, that's what I hear is the Hunger Games. It's going to be really interesting to see if they pull this off in an entertaining, interesting way or not.
They're not going to be killing people. Let's just leave it.
It's on Fox. They're going to kill people.
They're going to kill. People are going to die.
Yeah, there's not going to be any murdering. It's just like the Squid Game series. Everything was PG.
The tone of it feels very Hunger Games-esque. I would agree with you on that. It's definitely one to at least check it out just to see if it's going to be any good, and if it's not, you know, we could just move on to the next thing. Just because there is so much. I mean, you're about to talk about 3 really big shows that are either wrapping up or coming out with new seasons this week.
Yeah, so on February 13th, we have Season 6C of Cobra Kai. So this is the final episodes of the series. This is wrapping up the entire series we've been watching for 6 seasons. That we're really looking forward to see how it ends. But yeah, that's going to be on Netflix. This is this is it until we go into the movie. Hopefully we get a few more cameos in the movie of maybe some of the kids or other people from that. But this is wrapping up the Cobra Kai story.
It's one of my favorite shows. It's such a bittersweet thing that it's coming to an end. I really think it's a good time to end it based on the way they've moved along with this story. But this is a show that when it started, I like a lot of people was like, there's no way this is going to be any good. Like the Karate Kid movies, while fun, were cheesy, over the top, kind of like very 80s in their presentation. You're talking like you're going to do a sequel series based around Johnny Lawrence, the bad guy from the first.
Yeah, and it also started on, what was it, YouTube Red?
Yeah, it was on YouTube Red for 2 seasons before Netflix got a hold of it, and it just blew up into this worldwide phenomenon. But once you gave the show a chance, it is so good. It's so much fun, and I'm super excited and sad that we're getting the final 5 episodes this week to kind of put a button on what has really been an incredibly fun show to kind of experience. It's like if you know going in tongue-in-cheek that all of the world's problems can be solved by doing karate and accept that as a premise, you're going to have a great time.
If I said tongue-in-cheek, everything in this world can be solved by karate.
I will karate with you right now. You want to go do karate moves in the garage? We could do that. We're already best friends.
All right, after we finish this episode, we're going to go do karate.
Just like Step Brothers are going to be. Like, we're already best friends. Let's just finish it off by doing karate in the garage.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to finishing off Cobra Kai and seeing where it goes. Like it's corny and it's silly and it's over the top, but it's done with such heart and genuineness to it, and leaning into that. We know this is from a series that is a bit corny from the 80s and stuff, and we're just going to keep going with it. It has its plot and some other problems, but it's been such a fun ride that I am really looking forward to seeing how it ends. Another big popular show premieres this week as well. So season 3 of Yellow Jackets on Showtime is out on February 14th. And we also have White Lotus season 3 on HBO and Max on February 16th. So those are two, there's some really big shows continuing or ending this week.
Yeah, Yellow Jackets is really good. I've watched at least the first season. I haven't watched season 2 of that one. Excited to get caught up on that eventually when I get time. But White Lotus is another wildly popular show. It's getting its 3rd season here. Another wildly popular show continuing on. A big week for TV, man. Like
it's a big week overall.
It's rare that we get like a big week of content like this in February. Like sometimes you get shows coming back. Like we've got some reality shows coming back, some regular episodic shows coming back before the Super Bowl and stuff like that came back in January. But now we're getting like some more stuff coming back in February, and this is a big week for that.
Yeah, so you got Captain America, you got Paddington, which I was very tongue in cheek about it, but Paddington has done extremely well. Like there's even I've mentioned it before, a Twitter account that edits Paddington into different TV and film scenes, and he's been doing it for 2 to 3 years, if not longer now, that he's continuing it up, and it's one of the most popular channels on Twitter and stuff. And it's like Paddington is pretty big. Like I was tongue-in-cheek about it being the big hit, but who knows, it could potentially, with the talk about Captain America and stuff, even though we're already seeing Captain America trend around, I think it's about 80 million they're expecting domestically. I expect Paddington to do really well.
It could compete. Like that's not out of the realm of possibility to say that Paddington could compete or even beat Captain America. Like it's a family movie. You're getting 4 tickets to every 1 or 2 that are going to buy it for Cap. You know what I mean?
I think the second weekend is the one that's going to be interested in those. I think if it doesn't beat it this weekend, you might have more parents going to see Paddington next weekend and beating Captain America in week 2.
It is very possible, but that's going to do it for this week's episode. We can't thank you enough for your continued support. Coming up next week, we will be reviewing Captain America: Brave New World, and we're going to take a break from your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man just because we're getting the final 5 episodes of Cobra Kai. We will be reviewing that next week. So next week, Captain America and the final 5 episodes of Cobra Kai. Really looking forward to checking those out and giving you our thoughts on that. But until next week, I'm Josh, he's Brad, and we'll see you then.